Good morning. My name is Rebecca Flores Amado, and welcome to Let's Talk About It Now. Our guest today is Deatra McDonald, president of EHS Associates. Deatra has 20 years' experience working in the area of human resources for large corporations. What Deatra has recently done is open her own business. She provides employee handbooks for businesses in Rhode Island. Now, Deatra, tell me, what made you start your own business?
One of the things, as you had said, I have worked in large corporations, and I have noticed in human resources, and there was always so much structure. People did their job; they knew what they had to do, and that's what we did. Then I had friends and associates, and one of my friends started a business, and 6 months after, she was totally struggling with her employees. She felt like she was babysitting, and I said, you know what? I think you need an employee handbook. So we tried to go different places to look for it, and we weren't satisfied. So I said, I'll make one for you. That's how the business started. Once I made the employee handbook for my friend, then one of my associates heard about it, and he asked if he could have one. And then it expanded to not only an employee handbook, but it's also interviewing, legally appropriate interviewing, hiring, termination, and the state and federal laws. Small businesses, along with large corporations, you all have to be on the same running field. In 2005, everyone needs to be on the same page in terms of state and federal regulations for employment.
Do you find that it's an easy transition for them, for employers who do not have an employee handbook versus you giving them an employee handbook?
Absolutely. The one thing that I've realized, and the employers and the good employees have told me, is that the employee handbook is to help the employer and good employees. Because if you don't have that, and the transition from no employee handbook to having an employee handbook is so easy.
Now, Deatra, tell the audience, why is it so important for a business to have an employee handbook?
Again, this is the one thing that I hear from many people. Oh, I don't know if I need an employee handbook. That's in the past. We're now in 2005. An employee handbook no longer collects dust because along with the employee handbook, you have legally appropriate interviewing, hiring, termination laws that you have to follow. So it brings order, and that's what we're really looking for.
So what happens with an organization that has 4 supervisors or more? Is it the same?
This is interesting. So before I go into that, let me give you an analogy. What would happen if a family of 4 children didn't have anything in writing or any really policies that they kept to? The children would go to the father and ask him one thing, go to the mother, and the mother would say something different. It would be chaos. And that's what I find when I walk into many of the smaller companies that don't have regulations. Say if you have 4 supervisors, and each of those supervisors all working for the same company, but one supervisor will say to their people, oh, you can be a few minutes late, no problem, 10 minutes. Another supervisor in another department with the same company said, if you're late one more time, you're terminated. That's discrimination. Every company has to be on the same page. This is 2005. Whether you're large or small, you have to be on the same page.
Now, I would think that it will avoid some type of confusion between the employer and the employee. Do you find that it works a lot better because it avoids confusion between both parties, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The confusion comes in when the employees ask for something and the employer the employer didn't remember what his last response was and told the employees something different. Then there's confusion. Who said what, when, and where? With the employee handbook, you just have to say, go to page 10. That's the policy of my company, and these are the policies and procedures. And it makes the employee feel good because they know where they stand and how they have to perform to be doing adequate work for the company.
Now, why is it so important that an employee have an interview? What are the documentations needed for the interview? is there certain documentations needed when you're hiring an individual or in the process of hiring an individual?
When you are hiring we'll go in the book that has. I offer 3 books. This one here is interviewing, hiring, and exit interview. Now, what we'll do here is for the hiring process. As you can see, this is the book I think, Rebecca, you said you liked. This is the book that gives you everything in here is a legally appropriate checklist. So what it is here in the hiring interview, right here, there's the guidelines of a lawful hiring process. And here you see, and we'll be going into this later on, yes, there are over 27 different things that you need to know just in the hiring process and what documentation that you need and that's acceptable for employment.
Now, why is it so important for employers to know all the legal rights in Rhode Island regarding employee laws?
The reason why it's so important is that I've noticed a lot of companies that I've been to seem to be worrying about the legal problems that they may be getting into. And if they don't know what the state and federal employment laws are, they could be in violation and they wouldn't even know that they were in violation. But they're getting the idea. Again, we're talking 2005. And small businesses, medium-sized businesses have to be on the same playing field as large corporations. The large corporations do it to avoid lawsuits, and that's exactly what we need to do today.
Is it the same for one employee or a company with 500 employees? How does that work? Is there a list that they usually go by, the employees?
Absolutely. Now, the list that they have, we had talked about this before the show. If you have 1 to 14 employees, you have a whole set of federal and state regulations. As soon as you hire employee number 15, you have to add additional state and federal regulations. Hold on, even when you hire 20 to 49, there's even more federal and regulations that you must adhere to. And if you have over 50 employees, you have to adhere to every single federal and state employee employment laws.
Now that seems like a lot that an employer has to adhere to. Do you do a follow-up every month or so to ensure that the employer is on the same level and they are following the rules and regulations for the state of Rhode Island?
Rebecca, when I leave a company, my employee handbook does not stay on the shelf. It's read. It's put out there to get your attention. The one thing that we want to do is that everyone, especially when I go to a company, we go over all the 3 books that I work with. We work with the employee handbook, we work with the interviewing, hiring checklist, and I also provide a book that handles all of the posters. So they've got the full package.
Now, the poster book you just mentioned, that should be where? In a cafeteria where everyone goes to lunch, where the employees can all see all the posters and they can review it for any type of conflict that they may be going through?
Absolutely. Now, the one thing is that I go into many small to medium-sized businesses, and I go in, the first thing I say is, could you show me where your posters are? And they say, we don't need them. In today's world, you have to have them by state and federal law. Let me just hold this up. These are the posters. You have 15 state and federal posters that should be posted, as Rebecca had said, in a visible place. In the cafeteria is usually where they are. Now, let me show you another one. This is put out by the Rhode Island Right to Know law.
Now, this is the one that the employees should know. Am I correct?
The employees, yes. The employees will read this, but the employer also knows it because everyone today is on the same page. You have to be on the same page. Then the federal government comes in and says, I want this poster also posted, the OSHA, the safety poster. So if you have, depending on how many employees you have, You have to put up the different posters. And that's what I do at EHS Associates, is that I provide you with all 3 books. I give you the employee handbook, I give you the poster book, I give you the checklist for interviewing, hiring, and terminating.
And your book, and you also provide the 15 federal posters. Am I understanding
Absolutely.
on that? Okay, am I correct?
All
okay.
the federal posters are in this book right here. What they do is I provide 15. I fold them up, put them in plastic pages, and then I give them a larger poster that has maybe 10 employee posters that are on the page. That way they can keep some in the book and put some in the cafeteria, just so they know. Because if an employee comes to you and says, by law I have a right to do this, and you say that law only applies to if we have 15 or more employees and we only have 8, so that law does not apply to you. But the employer needs to know that. And if an employer does not know which laws apply to his business, then there's confusion.
What I like about your packages, listening to you speak, is that each package is customized according to the type of company that or organization that you are interviewing. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If anyone wants to get a hold of your company, there is a telephone number, by the way, that you can contact Deatra McDonald, and she will give you a 10-hour consulting free.
Actually, what I do is, what I always do is, anyone in the listening audience today, if you give me a call and the telephone number is will be right here. The telephone number is 943-4612, and the area code is 401. Now, all you need to do is give me a call. I will come over to your office and I will give you an assessment. What does that say? I will ask you up to 30 questions. And if you have a lot of no, then that will let you know that you're vulnerable and that you need to know more of the state and federal regulations. And as I say, Rebecca,